I'm showing my phone here because this update is really important. It really is a good update, and you should put this update in. And whatever happens to your watch happens with your watch, but you should put the update on your phone as quick as you can because under settings, it's got Face ID and passcode, and you want to go to that. Oh, I got that. And then you want to scroll down, and you'll see this new feature that's added that says stolen device protection. And you want to turn that on. And what that does is that enables a protection that your phone, it knows where your phone usually is, at home or with you or something like that. But if somebody, the common way now of stealing a phone is to notice somebody putting in their code, noting what numbers they put in, or if you don't have Face ID or Touch ID, they notice what code you put in, they grab your phone, they run away with it, they immediately put in the code and they disable your access to it. So basically they have stolen your phone. You can't, go out there and say it's been stolen. But what this does is if your phone happens to be somewhere away from your normal location with the stolen device protection, it won't allow that code to be entered. You need a biometric entry to update your phone, to turn on your phone. So that's the reason to put this, is that your device can't be stolen and reset quickly, because that's what the thieves are doing. They're stealing it quickly. And I know when we were traveling, another thing they mentioned is, when you're taking pictures or having somebody else take a picture is caution too. But if you're taking a picture, people will come by on a motorbike or a bike and grab your phone and ride away with it. So you got to be very cautious when traveling, taking pictures, and also handing your phone to somebody to say, hey, can you take a picture of us? So, okay, that's what I wanted to share. And now we have, I think Joe has another comment, and then go over.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things, so one of the reasons Apple did that was because of the stories that Joanna Stern and Nicole, whatever her name is, at the Wall Street Journal wrote about that phenomenon of people stealing your passcode and then your phone. When Joanna Stern wrote a column about this when it came out, she said she'd been able to test it for a while, and the one thing that she noted that was interesting is that the whatever they call it, the priority locations where you can actually change your passcode immediately, only lasted for her like a couple of weeks. Like if she had been away from her office for a couple of weeks, that fell off of the places that she could actually change the passcode, which seems sort of unusual to me. I mean, if you knew that you were going to be out of your office for a couple of weeks and you came back and you needed to change your passcode or settings or something, you'd think you'd want your office to be able to be set as much as your home.
It's a tough thing to do. That's, and decide how to balance that. If you change jobs, you wouldn't necessarily want your old office location to be in there for an indefinite period of time as a significant location.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I've noticed on tags when you're traveling. Sometimes you're in some country or you're staying there a while, and it has an option to say, make this temporarily a location, so you don't get warned all the time that your luggage is left behind. Go ahead, Jonathan, and I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Oh, well, no, actually, more on the same topic, Roy, that I wanted to bring up. I actually watched a Gary McMost video about the stolen device protection. Usually when Apple comes out with something like this, I'm by default going to want to install it because, more secure is usually better. Not always. Anyway, the thing is, I was assuming I would do this on my phone. And then Gary got to a point where he said, just be aware that if this is turned on, here are the things you can't do. And to turn it off, you might have to wait a period of time. So, I said to him, Um, you know, should everybody really be, applying this, or does it not make sense for the people who are old enough that they don't find themselves in clubs or places where they're putting in their code? I mean, and relating to this, one question I'd have to ask is, those of us who use Face ID on the new phones, is the stolen thing not really a problem? Because as soon as the screen turns off, if somebody steals it, they won't be able to access it because it's on Face ID. I wouldn't have had any reason to put in the code. So just to finish the point, Gary's view was, why wouldn't you do this? This helps. But the list of things of not being able to change your Apple ID, it was a long list of stuff that you couldn't do when this was turned on. So I guess the basic question is, this is rocketing off of Van's point about a balance between security and ease of use. Does it make sense for everyone to do this, or maybe not?
Well, he cited a list of things you couldn't do, but it's not that you can't do them if you have a biometric access to your device. It's just you can't do that if you, isn't that right? Or did he say that all those things are restricted from being done, even with a biometric connection?
No, you can't do them, period, he said.
Hmm.
I wish I could find the list of those things.
Yeah.
It's a long list of not things that you would always want to do,
Right.
but might be annoying if you have to do it to have to.
Well, I don't know. I would imagine that's a good question. I would think if you had biometric, if you could biometrically, well, then somebody would grab it while it was active. That's another thing that happens too, is grabbing it while it is connected. So I guess you can't disable that capability remotely, turn it off, even if somebody biometrically connects. So good. I guess those are
Jonathan,
good points. So Bruce has some
Jonathan,
points. Oh,
the 1 hour delay is if you're away from your priority locations. If you're at home and you wanted to change all that stuff, you don't have a delay. The point of the delay was the that it happens at those remote locations that are not in your priority list.
That's better then, of course. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, you could, it's like the air tags. It knows where you are or where you should be. And if you're somewhere else, it activates that protection.
Well, at the end of the day, Roy, probably, everybody should turn this on, and then we'll see if it turns out to be, any undue effort or not,
Right. I'm thinking back in history, it's kind of a self-protective thing for Apple themselves because they're way back when, many revs back, somebody stole one of their Apple phones when a guy was in the bar and had access to it. So.
Well, just think, Roy, of how many support calls they can chop off if everyone turns this on, right?
Right. Oh well. So protect yourself if you wish. Bruce, do you have some more comments about this, or?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, let's make sure everybody here that we're all on the same page. Now, that not too long ago, Apple introduced something called lockdown mode, which is a very restrictive, high security thing that's not for most people unless you're, a target of a foreign power or maybe something like that. That's a different thing than what they introduced very recently called stolen device protection. Okay, so today, right now, we've all been talking about stolen device protection, the most recent of the two new features. Okay, the other one came in, I don't know if in one of the more recent updates to iOS and I guess iPad OS and everything. Okay, so if it's stolen device protection, my question is, with it turned on, you need to authenticate biometrically. That means if your iPad has Touch ID, you use your finger and it reads your fingerprint. On the other hand, if your iPad has Face ID, then it looks at your face and recognizes you that way. So those two things are biometric authentication, if you will. So my question is, with this turned on and some features only work with it on, certain things now only work with biometric authentication. There's no fallback to a password or passcode. So my question is, what happens if the biometric doesn't work, if it fails? I've in the past, currently my two devices, my iPhone and my iPad, both use Face ID. But in the past, I had an iPad and an iPhone which used Touch ID. And in the wintertime, especially, my finger wouldn't register, probably because of dry skin, changing it just enough. My solution was record some additional fingerprints in the wintertime. Once I did that, everything was fine and never had any more problems. But the problem is sometimes
that's the Alan Kent video clip that I think we made once.
Yeah,
go ahead,
so
Bruce.
The problem is, what happens when your face isn't recognized after several attempts, or your finger isn't after several attempts? What then?
I have to shave. Shave your mustache off and take off your glasses. Keep trying.
Well,
I don't know.
But I've had it not recognize my face when I'm not wearing,
Yeah, I don't know whether I've ever had a problem
anything
with Face ID. Face ID seems to work quite well, but the
it
finger
does. It works better generally even than the Touch ID, which worked very well too. But
yeah, but I would guess that would be a caution to anybody that does have the finger ID problem.
So,
well,
as a result, unless there's another better suggestion, my suggestion is, and I'm doing this myself, let's take a wait and see attitude. Let's let the world at large try this, and let's see if anybody has problems getting locked out of their phone, or maybe not out of their phone completely, but out of certain functions because it won't recognize their face or their touch or something.
Right.
Let's let it percolate for a while. I'm not in the hurry to turn it on.
Here's a question. How often do any of us do the functions that this mode will delay? And for me, the answer is essentially never.
Yeah, so that's another.
So it's not. It's hardly an inconvenience for normal usage.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know.
The other thing is,
on the other hand, how often do I go?
Can we turn to Van for a moment? I think he's been waiting patiently.
Okay, go ahead, Van.
The process, as I understand it, I agree with Gabe. I said, look at the list of things, and if there's an inconvenience that you might deal with because you're trying to do one of those things, then make your own decision. But like Gabe, you rarely have to do those kind of things that are on that list. They're, new device, that kind of thing. It's just the stuff you don't do routinely. The other thing is that my understanding is that the fallback to your passcode still exists if you're in a significant what Apple calls a significant location, home or office. And so it's not as though you're unable to do those functions. You need to be able to do them if you had a problem like that in a significant location. And so you're not totally locked out. It could be an inconvenience for sure. Now, Apple's, of course, not going to tell they're going to be cagey and I'd want them to be cagey about how they determine a significant location, because you don't want somebody who would grab your phone to be able to determine what your significant locations were, because they would just go to one and
yes.
And the fallback for the passcode would work. So it's a really tricky kind of thing to deal with, but it's, you're not going to get totally locked out. If, the most you'd have is an inconvenience, I suppose. Now, if you were traveling and you were away from a significant location, could be an issue. We'll have to read the stories on that that'll come up in the next couple of months.
Right. Yep. And if if you don't have a concern about it, I mean, yes, if you're traveling, it's going to be, that's when you're going to want to use it, but that's when it's going to be the greatest inconvenience, unless it has a way to set where your current location is. Well, Jonathan, go ahead.
Maybe a last point on this,
yes,
which is, Van, thanks for mentioning, because I just I'm looking at the list of the security delay and it makes it harder to do when you have this turned on. And all of the things on the bottom of that list are things that you would do if you were trading in your device. So what this brings up to me is that this is going to add another thing to all the Apple help for how to trade in your device, because before you can turn off Find My, you have to turn off stolen device protection. Okay, that's my last thing on this. Thanks for everybody's advice. I appreciate it.
Can I add one more thing?
As long as it's short. As long as it's short.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say, yes, this is a good thing. Maybe you're not going to be completely locked out of your phone like Van suggested. It could be an inconvenience, especially what if you're over in Europe like we were last summer, and there's no, I would imagine it's not going to see any of those places as a frequent place or like my home or my office, and say, okay, let him in, but on the other hand, is this really all that important to those of us in this demographic group? I mean, do we go to bars and clubs? No, probably not.
Do we have a chance of losing our device?
What's that?
Do we have the chance of losing a device? The answer to that is
always
yes.
a possibility.
So that's what it covers. Okay.
And I know there are people in the club that take the metro, and that could be a time
let's go back to Jonathan.
But I never take the metro, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah. So I hope we're finished with this issue here. What I wanted to do, actually, if it makes sense to everybody now, is quickly show you what we have in mind for the program coming up in the early part of the year. And let's see if I can show that. Can everybody see that? My note?
Yes.
It looks like it.
I'm still trying to hide floating meeting controls. There we go. Mike was trying to help me with this in the last meeting. Okay, so coming up in February is going to be a really a fun one. Jennifer Wilcox Cryptographic Museum. This is another one of Gabe's facilitation. So thanks again, Gabe, for everything you do to introduce us to really interesting people. So this will be a virtual meeting that will be a virtual tour of the Cryptographic Museum. And Gabe actually, I think, also told us that this woman, Jennifer Wilcox, is nearing retirement. So it's great for us to actually get her to show us one of the, one of her programs before she heads out the door. Sorry, Raju, did you have a question about this or a comment?
Yeah, actually, you're sharing your screen of the Zoom session, not the second screen where you might have notes.
Yeah, can everybody see it?
No.
We're seeing the Zoom screen.
We're seeing the Zoom screen of
but we
faces.
don't see the program or whatever you're trying to project.
Zoom screen of faces.
I think when you went to share screen, you may have picked the wrong thing.
There you go.
There we go. Now we see 2024 Pi speakers, etc.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Raju. Yeah, so in March is another fun one. Did any of you read I'm on the GMU email list, and Missy Cummings is someone that they recently brought on to head their AI and robotic, the new chair of the new department. Anyway, it sounds really cool. And I was pleasantly surprised when she responded to my email. So tentatively, at least, she's on the schedule for the March meeting. Coming up in April and May, one of these will hopefully be Jim McLean at GEMU, the meeting that we had planned for January, but it turns out they're doing rebuilding in his space. And the parenthetical about that is a to-do for you, Roy, to go by GMU and visit Jim McLean and see how the work is going on the XR lab.
Right.
The other one of those April or May meetings is a local journo that I've come to know who will give us an interesting talk about trends in local news, about her beat and her background. And then coming up in June, Rob Pegoraro has already firmed up a date. I offered him the 2 dates in June, the third week, where we could do the joint meeting with Gabe's, the Potox group, and the fourth one, and he opted for the fourth one. So it looks like we'll do a Pi meeting, but invite all of the Potox people to it. And who knows whether this will be an in-person meeting or a hybrid or a virtual. I have no idea. In July, I have a note. Gabe, I don't think I've heard back from your audiologist yet about the July meeting that I offered. But that's what we're. So anyway, that's our plan for the first part of the year. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, then.
Gee, I'd say good work. Thank you.
Well, it's the old thing, Ginger, that we try to kind of spice things up. And one thing that I really appreciate is the positive feedback that we've gotten when we bring people who are interesting people, but in fields that aren't pure technology. They all use technology, but that aren't pure technology. So thanks. Roy, should we get started with our video editing session?
Yes.
Hey, I hope everyone hasn't got enough of Bruce yet, because the starting video that we're going to show is actually of Bruce holding down the Q&A table. In these old days, this is just several years ago, the last 5 years, when we were meeting at George Mason before the pandemic. This was after Lawrence had decamped to the West Coast. This was a day that Roy was absent, so Bruce was holding down the fort. And we're not going to watch all of it, but it's just because I wanted to show everyone what Dale Rayback, used to do for us. I think most of you know that he passed away about 18 months ago. And boy, is he missed. But the great thing is that we have his product, and I'll try to trot out some of these from time to time, just for us to remember him. So let me see if I can find that.
January 2019. Questions and answers.
Well, okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the January 2019 Washington Apple Pie General Meeting. My name is Bruce Brown. I'll be doing the Q&A today. My co-conspirator in crime, Roy, is unable to be here, unfortunately, today, so I'm going to wing it on the mobile questions and hopefully be able to do okay on any Mac questions you might have. So we're going to start with about 45 minutes worth of questions and answers, and then we'll proceed through this agenda from there. Okay, who's starting off? Who's got questions? First of all, did everybody sign in? We now have 3 ways to sign in. You can do it the old-fashioned way on the sheet with pen and paper, or you can do it from your own mobile device, or you can do it from the club's MacBook Pro when it was over there. You could have done it, and some of you did, I think. So, but the club's old MacBook Pro will be doing double duty. So after when the meeting starts or just before, we'll bring it over here. So that's a change from the way we've done it before. We'll have this extra computer there. So if you don't want to sign in on the handwritten sheet, you can do it on this thing when it's over there on.
Quaint, isn't it? Doesn't it seem quaint with everything that's come before, the way we used to do this in the meetings? Sorry.
Sign-in table first thing in the morning from now on. Okay, anybody that didn't sign in can go to the club, or excuse me, go to our Google Docs page. I don't know if we have a link. Oh, there it is. Do you see that URL right there? bit.ly/pyattend. If you're doing it from your own MacBook or mobile device, that's where you go to sign in. So if you haven't done that, please sign in and at least put in your name and your email address and then hit send or whatever it says. Okay, who has questions this morning? Yes, and please wait for the mic when it's your turn to ask a question.
Which no Pi members ever did.
I just saw that was announced and available. I saw one negative article saying that it hadn't fixed some of the cellular connectivity problems in earlier releases, and lots of people saying go ahead and install it. So I just wonder if you've installed it, if other people have.
I have not installed it, and I don't know what problems there might be. All I would say is, yeah, there's always problems with every release. I don't know what problems there might be with this new 12.1.3 release, or what existing problems that people...
Cellular connectivity, specifically.
Oh, and that hasn't been fixed?
And the article said that is not fixed in 12.1.3. Okay. So my question is whether other people had installed it and seen any problems. You haven't, so you don't know.
I don't know. Since has anybody installed...
I have a hand here.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we need to keep playing the stuff about the old technology, but mostly what I wanted to do was to show everyone. I mean, Dale, this is picture in picture of in the day what we used to say that Dale Rayback was going CNN. What a wizard he was. All right, then.
He certainly made it look easy, but it probably wasn't, right, John?
Well, I have no idea how he did it. I'll show a little later just how to do basic picture-in-picture in iMovie, but Dale making these two different video feeds, picture-in-picture. I don't pretend to be a video genius. So the only thing without the panels. How the heck do I stop the share screen? So the good news is the panels weren't in the way, and the bad news is
I'll stop it.
oh, thank you, Roy.
I don't know why you somewhere at the top of the screen, but I could do it. So I did.
So what I got out of this mostly was that I'm just as ugly and my voice is just as crummy as it now as it was 5 years ago.
I don't know. I think you have a teacher voice, Bruce.
Really? I have been called a natural teacher by one person who used to be a guidance counselor in years past, but I had never heard that other than what she said. But I never heard anyone say I have a teacher's voice, so that's a new one on me. Maybe
folks,
what was that guy's name? Henry Kissinger, the voice that could put you to sleep, you know.
Folks, let me just give you an idea of where we're headed in this. So we're starting on the mobile side, and Roy might be willing to next show editing videos on the iPhone.
Yeah, I'm going to talk
right?
a little bit.
Okay, hold on just a second before you get started with that.
Right.
So, and after that, I will show a video about Final Cut Pro for the iPad. And that will be the mobile video editing part of it. So after that, we'll do some basic trimming of videos on the Mac using QuickTime Player. And then, as I said before, I'll show the most basic drop and drag picture-in-picture in iMovie. At that point, we'll move to Final Cut, and I'll show a little bit of Gary Macmost video for Final Cut introduction. I think the way he's doing that now, I don't know how many of you have signed up for the Macmost actual classes, but his first one is like a teaser, and then the part 2 is the pay one. So hopefully showing a little bit of the first one will give you a flavor for what Gary can bring to that. Then what we want to do is end with other video apps, other video editing apps. And we'll talk about Davinci Resolve, which is one that Sam Knutson really was hot on. And another one called Capcut. And yeah, so as we go with that, why don't put your questions in the chat or put your hand up, and particularly for the things that are videos, if you have questions midway, just ask and we'll stop. So with that in mind, Roy, do you want to first show some iPhone?
Yeah, iPhone, iPad stuff. Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. So I'm going to share my iPad. Try to. There's my iPad. It actually, the camera is blocked. But what I wanted to emphasize was that I'm going to start off talking about something that you can do that's a handy thing and a feature on your camera that a lot of people recommend having always on, and that's the button here to turn on live mode. So that's something to turn on your camera. I don't like having it on, but it is nice because it does take a series of photos on your camera that are like 3 seconds before you press the button to take a picture, and then 3 seconds after. So it's about 6 seconds or some time. I'm not sure exactly what the time is.
Do you know, Roy, I think it's really helpful to keep that engaged, because it means that if you're taking photos of an event with live photo turned on, you can actually make that into a a video.
You're jumping ahead of me, Jonathan.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
That's
Roy.
my presentation. Well, Jonathan gave the
So
presentation.
sorry.
We'll go back to Jonathan. He just, spoiler alert. Well, there's
Okay, guys, can I
there's
ask a
another-
question,
Oh, already?
Roy?
Okay.
Just for a
Yes.
second. With live mode turned on, how do you, can you get a single picture to send to somebody?
I could show you that also. Okay, we happen to be in photos.
Good.
And if we go to the photos and see them all, I've sorted for, I keep trying to click on my screen instead of my pad, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so if we see all the photos that we've got here, these are live photos. So if you go to a live photo and you edit the photo, oh, here I'm clicking on the screen again. Boy, it'll be nice when that works together. So if you edit the photo, let's see, you could crop it. Well, I don't want to crop it. Actually, what happened is, let's see, cancel that. I didn't pick a live photo.
No, you just have to hit the live button on the left, Roy.
Oh, there. Yeah, this is a live photo. So if we click on the photo, which is not working. Okay, let me. Live photo. Oh, there we go. If I click on live photo, you'll see at the bottom. This is crazy. Live photo. Okay, why is the live photo not activating? There it is. So you'll see it's there. Okay, so that's a live photo. If we edit the photo and we click on live, you'll see down at the bottom of the screen, this is the reason people say to turn it on, is because a lot of times you take a picture and you get somebody, not, especially good for portrait pictures or group pictures, because sometimes they don't have a good facial expression. But what you can do here is you can, on a picture of a person, you can say, okay, that's not a very good picture of a firework, and I want, you want to find the one that you want to keep as the key photo. Then you can, as you see at the bottom of the screen, it says make that the key photo. So then when you're done and you cancel, that's the photo that it's showing as the predominant one. But it's locking in on that one that you liked. Now, the other thing you can do is you go here, and when you duplicate that photo, you can duplicate the photo that looks the best that you've picked out as a still photo. And now you have a still photo of it. So you've really eliminated, you've got two sets of photos, one the live and one not live. So, like I said, that helps with portrait pictures. But what I wanted to show, and got to get back out of the picture, is if we go to photos and I search for photos, I found the firework photos. And now what you can do, and this is on a pad, there's a slight difference between the phone and the pad, but I can click what I was going to say. Okay, go back. The photos. I want to select. And this is really good for fireworks, I discovered. If you'd like to take pictures of fireworks, because the live is nice, and what's nice about a live firework is when the burst appears, and you take a live photo, it's capturing it just before it bursts. So you get the whole action of the firework. But what you can do is I'm selecting a number of fireworks from this group that we saw. Now, on the pad, the nice feature it has is you can save it as a video. So what it does is it automatically creates a video of the photos that you picked. On your phone, it does not have the save video. It only has save as a slideshow. So you kind of have to manipulate it there.
Can you only do one at a time, Roy, on the phone, but multiple ones on the pad?
On the phone, it does not have the option to save as a video. So you can only save it as a slideshow. But there's another option of what you could do then, and we'll kind of get into that. And if I go to my videos, you'll see here I made a video of the fireworks show using the ones I selected. So rather than taking the time, it's showing, you know, it does take time to stitch them together and put them together. So it does create that fireworks show, and it's pretty nice. And it has the sound also. I think the sound is off on this, but
Well done. Very cool.
so it's really nice for fireworks. It's nice for anything that's continuous, you know, whatever you want to tie together. Now, the key thing I want to show is you want to have iMovie on your device. And then when you go to iMovie, it has improved itself. When I tried to update it, I think on my phone, it said it needed an update, which was kind of surprising. It did not do an automatic update. But here it has Magic Movie, Storyboard, and Movie. So it has a number of options, plus Final Cut Pro. And it gives you a chance to try it for free, a little promo. But if you go to Movie, you could create a movie, and you're creating a project. And let's see, my movie, start a project. Okay, try it that way. Yeah. So I can go to photos, go to the video, and go to the end. Oop, nope, I went to the wrong way. There it is. I want the firework one. So I'm going to edit that one. And well, I selected two. I wonder what the other one they created was. Well, we'll go there. So it's going to create a movie. I must have picked the long one. Let's get out of that. It's not letting me exit from it. That's great. Oh, there it is. Get back to iMovie again. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. Create a movie. Oh, I didn't select on video. Yeah, okay, here's some movies that have been here, and here's the firework.
Now you realize
And I'm going to select the firework one and create the movie on that. Yep. I tried this before, and now I'm having a problem doing it.
Roy, you realize you're making us all feel much better.
Yes.
This is exactly what happens to us.
Okay, media. So I want to select.
Did it quit or did it create it, Roy? Can you tell?
Create a movie. Let's see, create a movie. See, this goes back to this, and I don't want to create a movie. I'm not sure what it's doing to me here. I go to video. I'm trying to pick a video.
Are you using your finger for this or the
Yes, I'm using my
attached
finger.
keyboard?
I'm using my
Yeah,
finger.
see, that's a power of using the mobile device is so much of this is easier with the finger than it is
Okay,
with
I'm
the
going to check
keyboard.
it. There we go. And let's see. Go here. Yeah, it doesn't seem to have the same controls when I tried doing this earlier. But why doesn't it have edit? But basically what you can do is trim and clip, and that's what I'm trying to show. Okay. Cancel. Projects. It will create, I don't know why it's not working. I'm sorry. I basically was going to show how to clip using the pad, which I had practiced before this meeting, but now I don't seem to be able to do it the way I wanted to.
Roy, would you like me, the next thing I was going to do is show a video on Final Cut Pro for the iPad, and then maybe we'll come back to you.
Yes.
Do you want to try that?
That would be good.
Okay.
I'll figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, so this is a video that we won't watch the whole 9 minutes of. That is best iPad video editing app, Final Cut Pro for the iPad. And in the new Zoom app, the share screen puts the share sound and optimize video on the right instead of at the bottom. It took me a while to find that.
Final Cut Pro iPad review. We're going to cover the pros, the cons, and how this iPad video editor stacks up against some of the other top options out there. And then we'll share whether this really is the best iPad video editor app right now. So Final Cut Pro for iPad has actually been out for a little while now, and it was highly anticipated. There was a lot of people that were waiting for this for a long time. And I got to say, it's not just the Mac version, Final Cut Pro, that's been ported over to the iPad. This is a whole new rethink on what editing on the iPad can actually be. It's got a lot of pro level features and tools and things in here, but it doesn't feel like it has the level of overwhelm that some of the other tools out there do have. So the overall interface is really well designed. It's really intuitive. It's really easy to find stuff. It's really easy to jump in and to get up to speed using this, even if you've never used this before. And when you first jump into it, it really doesn't have that sense of overwhelm that a lot of the other apps do that have the same level of pro grade features that this one does too. As with most video editing tools and apps, there's different workflows that you can adopt in here. But I think this is even more apparent when you're working with an iPad because there's a few different ways that you could actually use it. You could use it docked with a keyboard and a trackpad. You could use the Apple Pencil. You can even use it handheld, or you could use a combination of all of them. And I actually like having this level of flexibility. It makes the editing process fun, that for some tasks you're doing, you might find that handheld is best. For others, you might find using the pen is the best for that thing. But one of the standout workflows for me, and this is something that really separates Final Cut from pretty much any other editing app on iPad, is the handheld experience. They've added these new jog wheels or thumb controls, which are so fast, so intuitive to edit with. Now, it did take a little bit of getting used to at first, but it's crazy fast and really accurate too. So first off, you can toggle it on and off, and then you can actually adjust what it actually controls. So you can use it to move your playback head, or you can set it so it will slip or slide your clips around in the timeline too. And I love that with this, they've strategically positioned some key buttons around where your thumbs are going to be if you're holding the iPad to allow you to edit really, really fast. Things like ripple edit left and right, things like cutting or splitting your clips. You've got direct access to those right in your thumb positions. So the idea here is if you're holding your iPad, you've really got everything at thumb's reach. The overall timeline and editing experience is fantastic, which is kind of expected with Apple when they make the hardware and the software. They really know how to dial everything in. But they're also not just aiming this app as just an editing app now. They're actually positioning it as a movie studio at your fingertips, which is pretty interesting. It's not something that I would identify my iPad as a movie studio. Yes, it's a good content creation device, but what they've done now is included a pro level camera app inside of Final Cut. So now you can actually shoot your clips and add them directly into your timeline, into your project, all from within the one app. And I think it's a good idea. It does give you access to some more pro level features than you get in the built-in camera app, but it's also not to the level of some of the other more professional camera apps out there like Filmic Pro or the Blackmagic camera app. So I think it's an interesting addition, not really something I can see myself using. I think I'd much rather shoot on a phone or on a dedicated camera than holding up my iPad shooting stuff. You also now have the ability to quickly and easily record a voiceover directly in the app as well. And they've also introduced a new storylines feature where you can essentially group a selection of clips into a storyline. So similar to a nested clip or a compound clip, but making it easier to control different sections of a longer form story. And this will help you organize your timeline as your story or your edit grows. They've also added in what they call dynamic content. So there's different color grade presets, there's animated titles, different generators now, and they've even added a music looping feature where you can shorten or you can extend out a music track, and it's going to automatically adjust it so that it loops seamlessly to match your desired length. So this is a very similar feature to what you'll find in Adobe Premiere Pro, where you can retime your music and it's automatically going to adjust that for you. But one thing to note here is that in Adobe Premiere, you can do that with any music track. Inside of Final Cut Pro for iPad, this will only work with their select music tracks that are here in the app. Now for workflows across the Apple ecosystem, you can actually transfer your Final Cut Pro for iPad projects over onto your Mac, desktop, or laptop for finishing editing in Final Cut. And the process to do that is really straightforward, although right now this is a one-way sync, meaning that you can go from the iPad to a computer, but you can't go back the other way yet. And on that point too, in relation to storage and transferring and moving large files, yes, there is external drive support. So you can connect an SSD or an external drive, and you can import that footage into Final Cut, but the import process and using those files, it does import them to the iPad itself, meaning that you need to have enough storage space on your iPad for all the video assets and files and things that you want to use. They've got to be stored on the actual iPad right now. And I think this is one of the biggest feature requests that I've seen from people asking for true SSD support or external drive support, where they can work from external drives without needing to take up the internal storage. And that's the way that tools like LumaFusion and Davinci Resolve work. So hopefully it's just a matter of time before we have that in Final Cut for iPad too. So depending on the projects you're working on, then if you're working with large files and your iPad doesn't have much storage available, I mean, that could be a deal breaker right there. You might not even have the storage capacity there to edit some of your projects. So that's definitely something that you need to be aware of. With Apple Pencil support, you can actually use it as an input device. You can use it for general editing and navigating the timeline and all of that stuff. But you can also use it to annotate, to write, to draw on your videos as well. And it can even animate those drawings for you too. And for those of you that have tried to have some sort of drawing animation or something created, the process outside of this really isn't too simple. But having this built in here to Final Cut Pro for iPad, it is so easy to use. You literally just draw out what you want, and then it will automatically animate that for you. Now, for me personally, I've got terrible handwriting, so I don't think this is an effect that I'm going to use too often, but from previously having to create this effect from scratch, this is so quick in comparison. Another thing that they've re-engineered in here is the way that you color grade or adjust the colors in your videos. In here now, in contrast to Final Cut Pro for desktop, is to plugins. It's also worth noting that there's currently only limited support for third-party plugins. And as a Final Cut Pro desktop user, I think this would be a huge addition to have access to these on the iPad as well. Obviously that and true SSD support, those two things I think would be a massive addition. Now, in regards to pricing, there is a free 1-month trial, so you can install this, you can have a play around, see how it works for you. You'll then need to either jump on their monthly plan, which is $4.99 per month, or...
Okay, I've got it figured out now. So we'll go back to my pad again.
Sure, go ahead, Roy.
And I've called up the firework the way it should have been called up before. This was the clip that it actually put together in on the iPad when I said make a film. So what it has is a scroll bar here that will, you can go through your frames and look at your frames and see what your thing looks like. But then it has a lot of options. And let's say this is one section where there's the white fireworks. Well, if I put it at the end of a frame or somewhere where I want to, I mean, maybe I don't like that burst there, but put it there or whatever. But then if you hold your finger on it, it gives you a whole bunch of options for the entire video. And one of them is to split it. So I can split this here, and then I can go down a little further. I can scroll down here and scroll down to here, click there and split that out. Now, this thing with the white fireworks, maybe I don't like that. Maybe I don't want it. Well, the trash can is there, so I can just delete it out of there. And now my video is this entire thing, and I can merge them together, but it'll just play continuously from here through. But the pad really gives you the iMovie on the pad is really kind of exceptional of what you can do. because you could change the speed. So if you've got something you want to turn into slow motion or a section or something like that, you can slow down the speed, or you can speed it up. Set the speed to what you want. You can change the volume of the audio track or cut the audio track, actually, if you want. You can add titles to it. There's a lot of options for putting titles in. Obviously, you put a title at the beginning or something like that. And you just click on the title and you can do it. You could duplicate a section here. Maybe this one I want to duplicate it. So now I've got a double of that very easily. Detach the audio if you don't want to have the soundtrack at all. Filtering is kind of interesting because you can just filter segments of ways you want the video to appear differently. And that's pretty much it, but it's
Sorry,
really easy.
Roy.
Yes.
Roy, where's the sound? I couldn't see.
The soundtrack, well,
that's the sound underneath it?
Oh, no. Volume. I'm not sure. On the desktop, it shows the soundtrack, so I'm not sure. I think all you can do is change the volume or detach it.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't add it doesn't look like you can add a music track or anything like that. So the only thing you do is change the volume of the sound.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Various things. So, but that's pretty much what you can do with live and with a film. And what you can also do, which I did originally before I noticed that the photos had the option of creating a film. What you can do is take all your live pictures and put them together. You can make your own movie if you put we went on a trip recently, and on the trip I took a lot of pictures of live animals because we were in Africa, and basically you can just select them from photos and you go to your photos and pick. I put them in an album or whatever, and you go to the album and you pick wherever I have Africa, but somewhere I had Africa on here. You just pick the photos you want or all of them from a photo album and put them in. So that's one way of doing it. There we go with the albums. So it has the various albums, and there's a trip to Italy, so you can just pick, and then you can pick the live albums or live ones out of there, the various media. So, or you can just pull them from files, but then you can stitch them together, because when you bring them in, it'll come in as separate images, and you can add them to the video. So that's pretty much it.
So the powerful feature you showed, but that was in the Photos app on the pad, right?
Yes.
The ability to multiple select live photos and create a video of all of them.
Yes.
That's an amazing feature. So what you did was create the video that way and then put that into iMovie so you could do more with it on the pad?
So I could edit the photo, yeah. Remove things or change clips that I didn't like. You can move them around and things like that. But it's very capable.
So is iMovie built into the iPad, or do you have to download it from the App Store?
I think you have to download it. It's rather large. But I think it was like 682 megabytes on the phone when I downloaded it. So I'm not sure what size it is on the pad, because it's probably got more capability on the pad. And you probably don't want to edit a photo. You don't want to edit it on the phone unless that's all you've got, if that's the only Apple device you've got. But it is available for the phone and the pad and the desktop. So we've got it on all three, and the capabilities just increase. And of course, as you showed, you could go to Final Cut Pro and become a pro. Although it is a very pricey product, I think. But
well, do you remember that one of the smartest things we did, Roy, was give Dale Rayback a license to Final Cut Pro?
Yes, deserved it, and he did some great things with it. So
I have to say that's one of the things that I haven't sort of recovered after Dale passed away. But until we have someone who in the pie who really wants to use it,
right,
there's kind of no point.
But one recommendation, I mean, we do the video recordings of these Zoom sessions, and if anybody does a Zoom recording and makes a recording, going in with iMovie is a very good way to edit out the dead time at the beginning before the meeting starts, or edit out sensitive material, whether it's copyrighted material or something that, really somebody doesn't want, have kept on a video. That's what we often do. If we do, or we cut out clips of the meeting, as we did. Jonathan did that at the last meeting when we had the clubhouse and we had an audio track, and we can clip out a segment of the meeting when somebody has really, talked about one topic and created a little clip from it.
Yeah, I'll actually show that one that Sam Knutson from the afternoon learners meeting a little bit later.
But it's very easy to clip those things out just with on the pad with just your finger. Clip it in, and then you just say clip, and it creates a separate segment, and then you just click on that segment and delete it.
That's a particularly helpful feature and not so hard to do. Thanks, Roy.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I think I was next going to show, video trimming on Mac with a QuickTime Player. Yeah, so let me open a quick QuickTime video.
Oh yeah, that's also that's easy to do too with QuickTime. At least unless you may easily clip out the beginnings and endings.
So since the one I have actually was Bruce holding forth, just to demonstrate, I'll show how the trim works. Okay, so we're in QuickTime Pro. Can everybody see Bruce and I see Mary Dodd there and Gabe? I have to apologize that when I said the Pi members never wait for the mic, you're the exception to that. So, okay, so if you're in a QuickTime mode and you could edit, do you see there's a trim? And trim puts yellow bars, and this works the same actually in iPhone video clips and iPad video clips too. That makes it very easy to, can everybody see that I'm just dragging? And this is all the amazing content that Dale put in based on what people were talking about. Oh, that looks familiar. All right, so if I trim this, it prompts me to save a new video. So that's what I'll do, trim. And do you see how it's untitled here? So I'll basically want to save it. And you can also in QuickTime do file, save. Bruce in 2019. And it'll take a while to write this. Yeah, so now it's a shorter one that leaves off the stuff at the end. And the good thing about Apple stuff is that things look and feel the same on all of their devices. Not all the features are available. And so in the trim mode, Roy, could you quickly show that if I stop this?
The video trim mode?
Yeah, the video trim mode on the iPad or the iPhone.
I don't know whether I could quickly show that.
Just go into Photos, choose a video, and in Edit, we'll see the. Or I suppose I could do that.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be better if you do it.
Okay, so. Roy, can you remind me how to get the content from second camera? Is that it?
In sharing,
Yeah, and share screen. How do I get my phone onto the
I had it plugged in.
share?
So
Oh, you have to plug it in?
you can do it AirPlay. AirPlay, it has an AirPlay option, and then it has from cable. I plugged mine in directly.
Yeah, I don't see the AirPlay item. Oh, iPhone via cable, iPhone via AirPlay. There it is. This is going to go nowhere fast, Roy. Sorry.
Were you just trying to go into photos? Yeah.
Well, we can come back to that. The next thing I wanted to show was on the iMovie and the Mac. What Roy was showing was iMovie on the pad, and the most basic picture-in-picture and how easy that is to do. So let's try and show that.
Okay, I've got it figured out in photo now.
Yeah, so what you can see now is iMovie on the Mac. And this is a good opportunity to let everyone know that in a meeting where Sam Knutson, a Pi member, was talking about a backup saga of his. And at Roy's suggestion, I made a video clip of that. And the great thing was that it turns out that Sam is very much a video guy. I don't think he could make it to this meeting, or else he could have shown this himself. But he actually edited the video with Davinci Resolve and put a bunch of graphics into it. And I put that movie into iMovie just so we could look at it.
Okay, so I shared the experience in my photo club's Facebook group, and I'll dump that text into the chat after we talk through it. But I'm snowbirding down in Florida, and when we arrived here, and it's not the first time that we've done this, but when we arrived here, what was different was that the external drive that I have now about 3 terabytes of photos on just sat and made unhappy clicking noises when it was powered on.
Oh, no.
And
Ooh.
it continued to make unhappy clicking sounds even after a prolonged period of some hours. Now this is a RAID drive. It's a 20 terabyte Lacy RAID drive that's set up as RAID 1, so full duplication.
Oh. Good.
So there's two 10 terabyte hard drives in that enclosure, and it presents as 10 terabytes to Mac OS, but in fact, it's actually updating both of them. And what should happen, and I've actually seen before on a different enclosure from Lacey, was that one of the drives may fail, and then it'll tell you, hey, I'm degraded. There's a drive that's failed, but you're still running. You're only running one drive right now. You don't have a live backup, and you can replace that drive. It'll resync them up, and everything's fine. But in this case, that never happened.
Oh.
So. And it's interesting. I was talking with some relatives, and my nephew, who's a pretty heavy duty engineer, was like, well, did you put it in the freezer? And I was like, and I've heard that trick with failed hard drives before, but I did not put it in the freezer. Instead, what I did was the next business day, I contacted Lacey technical support.
Right.
And I never did find out exactly why this failure occurred. Maybe they'll debug it, because after we went through some basic questions to establish that, I had the device and the serial number, and that it was still in warranty, and my warranty included data recovery. He said, well, do you have a copy of the data? And I answered that I did. And in fact, I had already recovered it to an empty 10 terabyte external drive that I got. And the reason so I did not take up any more of their time and resources trying to get my data back to see if they could have. I think there's a pretty good chance they could have, because it's hard for me to believe that both drives physically failed. I think there was one physical failure and then some combination of firmware, software failures that prevented the enclosure from failing that drive out of service. And we might have even been able, with working with support, to figure out which one was bad and physically take it out and get it to come online. But we didn't try any of that, because I said, hey, I've already got my data back, and I already know that I've brought it up in Lightroom and everything's good. Because I back that external drive in addition to my internal SSD on my MacBook Pro up to in Time Machine. And I whatever your backup is, having a daily backup and having some strategy, like I use the 3-2-1 backup strategy, where I've got multiple physical backups and I've got a cloud backup. So there's always backup that is offline, backup that is current, and backup that is off-site. And that really meant that while I was a little nervous when that happened, I didn't panic, because I brought one of my 2 Time Machine discs with me, and I have 2 that I alternate. And so usually about once a month, I write the date on the box. I'll physically swap the Time Machine disc that I'm backing up to and put the other one offline in its original box in a closet. And so even should some sort of, ransomware or catastrophic security event happen that compromised my laptop, there's one that's completely offline and unplugged. So as long as I didn't then plug it into the problematic laptop, it's a known good state. And I've got cloud backup through Backblaze, where I could also go back to a point in time. And those having those different tiers of backup and having them be automatic, more or less, to the point of I still do have to, if I want to switch backup drives, I have to physically do some, plugging and unplugging once a month. But that made all the difference between completely freaking out and panicking and being very stressed out, and this just being something that I knew, as long as I kind of proceeded carefully, I would be back to where I was. And that's what I was able to do. So I didn't lose any data, because I had brought those backups current right before shutting everything down and leaving Pennsylvania. But I knew that if I did make a misstep somewhere, the most likely pothole I would get myself in was that I'd have to download everything from the cloud again, or I'd have to do without it until I went back to Pennsylvania and turn on, or make a quick trip to Pennsylvania to get the backup drive. But it all worked out. And so this is just sort of one of my annual pleas for everybody of have your backups, have multiple levels, use a strategy like 3-2-1, and I'll put some links and stuff in the chat for that. But it just will save you, and then get your family members to do the same. If you're the computer literate person in your family circle, get them going. And the cloud backup is the easy one, because we just recently set up, my niece and her husband were transitioning from years of just using work computers to do everything to a realization that they needed to have their own personal computers that they owned and kept all their personal business on that, and their work PCs were used only for work. And in doing that, the cloud backup was the easiest, because it was just like, you need this, and it was just like, tell me where to put my credit card and set it up.
Right.
And it just will work. And I know that it will work in the background invisibly, and that if something goes horribly wrong, they can get a drive sent to them through the mail for a small fee, or they can download all their data again. And it's not losing data, because losing data is the one thing I'm always concerned about for family members or me, that's the one that you just want to avoid at all costs. Being out of service temporarily is bad. Losing data is, with so much of our lives being digital now, is nightmarish.
Yes.
But there's a few different approaches you can take. There's different utilities. And I have another level I didn't talk a lot about because I didn't have to use it, which was physically cloning periodically that drive outside of a backup program, but just cloning it as a fully usable copy. So using something like Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper. And I really never met a backup I didn't like. And I even have, every time I've changed computers, I have a full backup of the computer at that point in time. So, like if I know that somehow I had something on a previous laptop and it's just not on this one in the place I might expect it to be. Maybe it was in some weird app directory. I can go back and get a copy of that old laptop from 2019 or 2015 and see what was in this directory in 2015. And that has been very useful to me over time.
Well, Sam, that's one of the best presentations I've heard about backing up. I mean, I think when Jonathan monitors the save of this talk, I think he might try to collect that snippet and present it and post it for people to frequent, if with your permission. But
yeah, so sorry, I'll put a link in the chat on YouTube for where this video is reposed. But the point I wanted to make about it is that all of those graphics were added by Sam using Davinci Resolve on the Mac. A little bit later, I'll show a video about Davinci Resolve and another third-party app. So right now, what I wanted to show is this Thanks Sam is just a graphic that I made, and I put it into the top, the top area navigator for this video. And if all I do is drop it, but don't put it down here, but instead just put it right above it and choose in opacity that I want to do picture in picture. So now, if I start it,
laptop from 2019 or 2015 and see what was in this directory in 2015. And that has been very useful to me over time.
Well, Sam, that's one of the best presentations I've heard about backing up.
So, and the thing about this is you can also adjust the dissolve. So let's say zoom instead and see what it looks like.
Of that old laptop from 2019 or 2015 and see what was in this directory in 2015.
About the same.
And that has been very useful to me over time.
Well, Sam, that's one of the.
And of course, the other thing you can do with anything in this upper bar is make it last longer. Now, again, what Dale did that I'm not even going to try to do was to put a video clip there and position it in the way that he did. But this itself actually isn't so hard to do. And again, this is just iMovie on the Mac. Any questions? All righty, so then.
Yeah, I can show editing in photos again if you want.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Roy.
Okay. Coming back to the pad again. Here's a photo that I had from an African trip. And if you go in edit mode, one thing that's great about photos too, this happened to be a video. And you can see the video down at the bottom. But another nice thing you can do with photos that's kind of remarkable that you could really do it. They didn't have it originally, but you can actually crop the video before you even start. And so crop out what you don't want in it. You could actually change various colors and filters and things like that. But the other thing is, as Jonathan was mentioning, you can edit parts of it too. It's the same type of thing. There's the entire video, but you can scroll through here and you can clip out what you don't want. You can say, well, I want to start the video here. And maybe there's something at the end or something like that you don't want. Go to the end and clip it there. And then when you save it, when you say you're done, now you've got that, you save the video and you've got the short version of it.
Did everybody see that you have the choice of saving that as a new clip or writing over the old one? So depending on context, you can make that choice.
Right. And then you can go back and edit, and you want to revert back to what you had, you can. So it still gives the thing revert back to the original.
Now, the other thing you can do, you can actually, in the edit mode, change the content of it also. Do you want to show that, Roy? If
What do you
you're
mean,
in edit mode and you hit the crop button, now you can actually take away some of the water.
Yes.
And yeah, so this is it used to be that you took a picture and then you went through processing on the Mac to be able to do something.
Right.
Now, when I take a picture or a video clip, I'll do these very basic editing things before I post it on, I'll still call it Twitter X. And it's very easy to do.
And it's got such capability. I mean, this is all in photos, and you don't even need to have iMovie to play around and do all this editing to it. So you've got, a vast amount of things you can do. It's really great. It's really amazing. Cancel, discard changes, go back to your original again. So very capable for what you can do in photos if you got video. And the same thing for you can do that with your live photos when you've stitched them together, because it will store them, in your library here. You have all the types of videos that you have. You have selfies, you have the live photos, you have portraits you've taken, slow-mo, screenshots, animated, and there's your videos. These are all the videos. So it's very capable. It's amazing how powerful Photos is now. That is it.
Thanks, Roy. Okay, so I think what I was going to show now was a little Final Cut Pro on the Mac, and that's via a Gary MacMost video. So let me find that. Sorry for the delay. I had all these and then in Safari and restarted, and Safari kept in history, but not in an easy way to restore the links that I had. Okay, so let's do this.
Creating our first Final Cut Pro video project. It's important to understand first how Final Cut Pro saves all of its data, and second, all of the different parts of this window, the main Final Cut Pro editing window that you'll be looking at all the time. On the left, you'll see here a sidebar that lists various items. The top one is your library. In this case, it's the default library called Untitled. This is what you get when you first run Final Cut Pro without ever having used it before. A library is the primary file created by Final Cut Pro. It's usually stored in your home folder, in the movies folder. In this case, if we look in our home folder and in movies, we could see it's right here. Now if we go to File, New, we could see here where we can create a new library. You could have as many libraries as you need. Each one will be saved as a different file. It's up to you whether or not every single project you create has its own library file, or perhaps a group of projects that have something in common use a single library file. Because in each library file there can be projects and events, and you can create new projects and new events for that library. An event is kind of like a subfolder of a library. It can contain in it various clips and other media that you could use in the videos you're creating. The videos you're creating are called projects, and you can create as many of those as you want too. Now events are stored in a library file. Projects are stored inside events, which are then of course inside a library file. So you can have an event with all sorts of clips and one or more projects associated with that event, and then you can have several events in your library file. In this case, our library file has one event. The first event created always uses the current date in this format, and it right now has nothing in it. You can see with it selected here, I just see import media. There's no project shown. There's no media shown. It's empty. So what you see here in the second part of the screen is in fact the list of contents of whatever you've selected here. So you've got your entire library. You've got one event inside a library, and they're both empty. You also have smart collections, which allow you to do things like just see all the videos, all the audio, things you favorited, just the projects, or just the photos, the still photos that are stored in the library. You don't need to use smart collections, and we won't be using them in this course. We'll just be keeping it simple with a single library that holds a single event, and in that event is where we'll store a single project and also our clips for that project. So let's start by importing some media so we have something going on inside this event. I'm going to go into the Finder here. I'm going to select 5 videos,
Sorry.
and I'm going to just drag and drop them in here. And that will bring those 5 videos into this event here. So you can now scroll through them and see that you have this one event, and it's going to organize things by date. So you can see all of these videos were taken on the same day. They all have the same date stamp on them. On the right here I see a preview area, and this will preview various different things that we're doing in Final Cut, including these clips here. If I move
Sorry folks.
See the red line in there. That's showing what frame.
We don't have to come back to this. If
that's showing that frame.
Yeah, it was something about the full screen that went bad. Bill had a question. Was the thanks Sam played in reverse, and let's see if we can. Yeah, so we're back to the iMovie about this. And let's see what it does now.
Weird app directory. I can go back and get a copy of that old laptop from 2019 or 2015 and see what was
So I think, Bill, this is in the, no, this. Actually, Bill, now I'm not sure because the options seem to be dissolve, zoom, and swap. I wonder if I do something else. If I shorten it to that.
weird app directory. I can go back and get a copy of that old laptop from 2019 or
The same thing.
2015 and see what was Not sure, Bill.
Jonathan, is that thanks Sam item? Is that a video clip?
No, it was a graphic that I.
It was a still image.
Correct. Yeah, I'm just not sure. Well, let's move on here. Okay, so we've been talking about picture-in-picture in iMovie. Showed a little bit of from Gary Macmill's Final Cut Pro. Should we move on to the other video editing apps that I'd wanted to show?
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, so
unless people have any questions about these, but you can see there's a lot of capability there. So there's
yep,
a
there
lot
sure
you can
is.
learn. There's a lot of playing around, and somebody was
While
talking about
Jonathan's
memory. Yeah.
while Jonathan is doing that, one of the things that's fascinating to me about this and just amazing, everything I think that's been shown except Final Cut is free
Yes.
with the device. And we just had these phenomenal tools that we just take for granted that just come along for the ride when we buy these products. It's, to me, that's remarkable.
Yes,
That is remarkable. That's amazing to me too, then.
Okay, this was the one. Best video editing software for Mac 2023 review.
Next option is going to be the one for you, but there's more than
Okay.
research and testing.
So here we go again.
going to share my top recommendations, whether you're looking for free, beginner-friendly options, up to advanced pro-level video editors on Mac. I've got you covered. Now, this is likely going to be a shorter and a very different video to when we've created these in previous years. And it's so cool to see how much the video editing landscape has actually changed in this time. So my recommendations right now are actually the simplest that they have ever been. For most people, I actually don't recommend a lot of the options that I used to. So my picks now for the top 2 video editing software on Mac go to Capcut and Davinci Resolve. And you can actually get both of them for free. So I'm going to give you the rundown on both of them, but also cover off why these two and why they're so powerful. But I'm also going to look at why I'm not recommending the other options over these two anymore. So Capcut is a really easy to use yet really powerful video editing application that works on Mac, it works on Windows, and there's also an Android and an iPhone version of this too, because it actually started out as an app first. And I think that's actually part of the reason that it helps make Capcut so powerful on desktop, is that it's really taken the overall approach from the smaller screen, the mobile versions first, which means it's incredibly intuitive and really easy to use. So someone who is an absolute beginner can jump in here, start playing around, figure it out, and be able to create something pretty amazing without much time and effort. There's also so many different transitions and effects in here, but not just the average stuff that you find in something like iMovie, like a basic wipe, a basic star wipe. There's actually some really cool and really usable ones in here that will help you level up your video creation and your storytelling. And there's also a lot of AI tools and effects in here as well. Things like an amazing background remover that works incredibly well. So you could remove the background without needing to go ahead and use a green screen. For color correction, there's a lot of presets and filters and things that you can apply, but you can also customize them up to really help you dial in the look and feel that you're after. Now, these are definitely not pro grade tools, so if you're after those, the next option is going to be the one for you, but there's more than enough in here to again help you create something amazing with minimal effort. Now, another thing I absolutely love that they've got in here now is adjustment layers. So you can essentially add this blank layer on top of your videos and you can apply things to it, add adjustments, and those adjustments will flow through to just the clips that are underneath that adjustment layer. This makes it really powerful and really fast to be able to say apply an effect or a color grade to a bunch of clips really quickly. And this is something that you would normally only find in much more professional video editing tools and applications. There's also things like built-in video stabilization, like motion tracking, and even noise reduction to help you clean up the audio in your videos. And again, it's all really intuitive, it's easy to find, it's easy to add into your workflow. I mean, there's even this feature in here where you can type out text and it will read it back to you in different natural sounding voices, or it will even sing it back to you. Now, in terms of the downsides or the things you need to be aware of, I personally would steer clear of the music selection in here. A lot of video editing tools and apps and things will give you music that you can use in your videos, but then a lot of them you could end up with copyright strikes, copyright claims on YouTube if you're going to use that music. So as a general rule, I'd much prefer to see you actually own the license to the music, and that's why we use Epidemic Sound and why we use Artlist as our top 2 places to get music for our videos, because we know that the license piece is totally handled and we're not going to have any problems in the future. But in the case of Capcut here, it's actually got a lot of copyright music in here, meaning that you're going to get flagged on YouTube really quickly if you are using that stuff. But they've got it in here because Capcut is actually made by the same company, ByteDance, who also make TikTok. So not only is this an amazing tool to make TikTok videos, it's also an amazing video editor in general, but there are some extra features and things that if you are creating TikToks, then yeah, you could use the copyright music, make your TikTok, and you're not going to have a problem with licensing if that's where you're going to upload it to. Now, the other thing with Capcut being owned by the same company as TikTok is that there are concerns around the terms of service, and if there's questionable stuff in there, like there is with TikTok, is that also the case with Capcut? Now, this is definitely not my area of expertise, but apparently Capcut and TikTok are actually banned in places like India already. But I'm not saying this to scare you, just to make you aware. I still use Capcut. I love Capcut. It is installed on all of my devices, and I think what they're giving you access to for free is absolutely incredible. So Capcut here is obviously replacing a lot of the different recommendations and things that I had previously. Things like iMovie. This beats iMovie in almost every way. It's easier to use, there's more stuff built in, and again, it's the same price, it's free. Filmora is another one that I do think now Capcut is a better solution all round for most people out there. But again, which is the best one for you is going to come down to your skill set, the videos you're creating, what's going to resonate and work the best for you. That's the important stuff. Video editing apps and software, they're just a tool to edit video. So your goal is to find the one that is easiest for you to get the job done, to make videos. The one that allows you to be as creative as you can be without being held up or limited by the software. So that's where my top 2 recommendations here of CapCut and Davinci Resolve. These are going to cover off the bases of most people that are out there making videos. So CapCut, an amazing free tool, great for someone absolute beginner through to intermediate. If you are looking for the more advanced stuff, or you're going to create really complicated videos, or you're someone that wants access to all pro grade features, then that's where Davinci Resolve will be the option for you. So Davinci Resolve is an incredible pro grade video editing tool that works on Mac, works on Windows, there's a Linux version, and there's also now an iOS or an iPad version too. And when I say this is pro grade software, literally Hollywood movies and stuff are being edited and produced on this. Now, just like CapCut, there is a version of Davinci Resolve that is 100% free. All you need to do is create a free account and you can download it, you can use it. And for most people, there's very minimal limitations. Now, one of the things I love about Davinci Resolve, which makes this really, really powerful, is how they break down the program into different pages, into different sections of the editing process. So you can jump between these different pages and access different tools as you're creating your video. So you've got pages or an area for media, so all of your video editing assets and everything are in there. You've then got the cut page, which is where you can start to compile your footage, start to build out your story, edit down a bunch of footage really, really quickly. Then for further refinement and actual video editing, you jump across to the edit tab. And this is really where I end up spending most of my time. But then beyond that, and this is where Davinci Resolve gets really, really powerful, is that you've got your Fusion tab, which is essentially your motion graphics, your animation. Think of this like Adobe After Effects built in here. That's what the Fusion tab is. You've then got color, which again is an amazing tool just in its own right, and stuff that people who aren't even editing in Davinci Resolve will take their projects from other editing applications here into Davinci Resolve, into this color tab area to color grade, to process, to bring the look and feel of their video, their movie, their documentary to life. This color area is absolutely amazing, and it's actually where Davinci Resolve started, was just this color stuff. Next one across is Fairlight, which is all things audio. Again, another pro grade tool that really does stand on its own 2 feet and is used by audio professionals, even if they're not doing the video stuff. And then the last one, Deliver. This is where you can export and save out all of your stuff. So I know it sounds like a lot and it might be overwhelming, but you don't need to know it all. You don't need to be using it all. For me, primarily, I'm just hanging out in the edit page, and that's enough for me. That does everything I need and so much more. And this is where over the past few years, Davinci Resolve has actually become now really, really popular because of these amazing features and tool sets that cover a wide range of use cases and professions, and it's so easily accessible for anyone to jump in, start learning this stuff, and move right through to be a professional. They've added some really cool new features recently and some AI stuff too. Things like voice isolation, which is incredibly powerful at removing background noise, really cleaning up your audio, whether it was recorded in an echo environment. It's going to process all of that and make it sound amazing. There's also some really powerful tracking and masking features in here now too, which when you first see them in action, especially if you've been doing this stuff manually before, it'll just blow your mind how good this stuff is. But in terms of overall editing, it is intuitive. It is easy enough to use. No, it's not at the same level as CapCut, but if you're comparing this to something like Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, you'll feel just at home jumping into here because it's going to feel familiar to you. It's almost like they've looked at Avid, they've looked at Premiere, they've looked at Final Cut, they've taken bits and pieces from each and really just melded them into something pretty amazing here. They've also improved dramatically the way you work with teams or work collaboratively on your editing projects, either through their own cloud service or even just transferring projects. It's all much, much simpler now, and I'd actually now use this over Adobe Premiere if I am working with teams. Now, it's definitely worth noting here that you will need to have a fairly recent computer, a fairly powerful computer to be able to use this well. So if you're going to try and use this on an older, low-powered computer, it's probably not going to work and it's probably not going to be a great experience for you. So definitely check out their system requirements, and I'll have those linked in the description box below. Now, in terms of pricing, as I said, there is a free version which is incredibly powerful, which is going to probably suit most people that are watching this. But there is also a paid studio version for $295. And that unlocks some more advanced features, but also more power, more integration with your video cards, with your computer hardware to help you process and render render and edit in a more fluid way. So for years now, Final Cut has been our top pick when it comes to best video editing software on Mac. We're kind of ingrained in Final Cut a little bit with templates, with workflows, with shortcuts. So for right now, for the business, it makes sense for us to continue with that. But yeah, if we were starting again, hands down, Davinci Resolve. So this isn't to say now that Final Cut or Adobe Premiere are bad. It's just if you're looking at the overall package, what you're getting access to, that entire suite of software and how well it works together without jumping into separate apps or separate tools, but also just for video editing alone, and knowing that the free version is going to be more than enough for most people. And for those that do want to pay and upgrade and get more performance out of it, that it's a one-time fee and not an ongoing subscription, it makes it a pretty compelling offer. But of course, it makes sense if you already have an Adobe subscription, if you're already paying for Photoshop or you're already using After Effects in your workflow, then it would likely make sense for you to use Premiere because again, they are so similar. Okay, so rounding this out, if you are a beginner to intermediate, CapCut is going to be the tool for you. If you're someone who just wants to do fast, simple edits with a bunch of effects and controls and stuff in there, then look at CapCut. On the other hand, if you're someone who wants pro-grade tools, literally industry standard software, or you're someone who wants to have access to some of those features without needing to become a full professional, just to know that you've got that creative control and the features and stuff there, but also have access to a next level professional video editing tool, then Davinci Resolve is going to be your pick. Now, irrespective of which program you end up with, the fastest way and the most effective way to edit your videos down is if you're following a clear process. Check out the video linked on screen where I take you through our editing process, which is going to make everything super simple for you. And also check out in the description box, I've got links to Davinci Resolve and CapCut video editing tutorials to help you get up to speed fast.
Oh, Jonathan.
This Primal Video channel guy is really good. This is the first exposure I've had to him. He has a little bit of a down under accent, so I'm not sure where he is. Yeah, so just bringing that back, it was Davinci Resolve that Sam Knutson used to put all the graphics into the video of his exegesis on his backup episode. What I don't know, the CapCut caution about the content only being good for TikTok is probably worth keeping in mind for people who want to give a try at that one. Is there anything else that people would like us to go back to from what we've talked about today? What we'll try to do is put as many links into the chat before we send it out about the links for the things we watched and the apps. And Roy, thanks so much for all your demos.
Sure. I got one more screen to share that's probably not very relevant, but I'll share it anyway, just because I got this message. Oh, there it
Yeah,
goes.
go ahead.
Okay, this was kind of an interesting message, and anybody is using the iMovie, one of the changes made is the message that came up at the top and then the bottom alert that sharing to iMovie Theater is no longer supported. So if you were doing that, which I don't even know what that's talking about, share these and future projects to iCloud Photos to view them on all your devices. And then it says the same thing, backup iMovie Theater to save, put them in the cloud. So it's, I guess, Apple kind of promoting more to put the videos on the cloud if you want to share them. And also in Photos, you can share videos and photos too, which is pretty handy. But just wanted to point that out in case anybody, did use that in iMovie. They keep updating iMovie with a lot of features and things. That's all.
Thanks, Roy. trying to think if there was anything else about this that. Oh, yeah, connected just to video stuff. One thing I would like to do, and now I'll have a bevy of different tools to choose to try to do it, is some sort of retrospective video for last year's Pi stuff. That's an easier haul than to try to make what the Pi really needs is actually a trailer for the Pi. Anyway, if anybody would like to help me with this, please let me know. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, would you just elaborate a little bit on the sharing? If I have a video in Photos and I want to share it with family or friends, how do I do that?
Good question.
So that's you can make a shared album,
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah, you make a shared album and then you send it to the people.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
That's a way to share videos and photos. It's good. It's
Okay.
good when you're traveling on a trip. We did that. It didn't work very well with people that had Android devices. I guess Apple and Androids don't Apple videos and photos sometimes don't work well with people with Android devices, but it did work with other people that had Apple devices. So
yeah, for that you might well need to export a whole group of the whole album to somewhere where you could, put it for them, with Google Photos or
something like that.
I would guess if you're having a problem with sharing on another platform like Android or whatever, I would guess the most likely reason that would happen is if it's a video format that Apple supports, but the other platform does not. If that's the case, you may be able to convert your video from whatever format it's in to something that will work on, Android or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. I think you could do that in some video editing programs just by save as or export from the file menu, for example. If not, there are probably programs you can use that'll do that, some of which are probably free. But you'll have to research that on your own because I don't have anything beyond that. One thing you should look for if you're doing any kind of web searching to research this, Bill, sometimes the term that's used for changing from one video format to another, sometimes they use the term transcoding. So be aware that just means, changing from video format A to video format B. You're transcoding a video. So if you're researching, you may need to know that if you're doing a search or something.
Sorry, I was just checking to see. No questions on the YouTube stream, but somebody watching.
I'd like to echo what a couple people have written in the chat, and a big thank you goes out to Jonathan and Roy for the work they did ahead of this meeting and during the meeting to show us all this stuff. Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks, Bruce, and
thank you,
Bill and Paul and Van. Appreciate it.
I'm trying to see if, the video camera, well, videos on the new 15 are, improved also. So, but I don't take many videos. Takes a lot of space.
Roy, I think I've told the story of several years ago just because I had live photos turned on, taking pictures when we were in Vienna at Schubert's grave of my wife's brother buying flowers and putting them on the grave. And it really worked out so well that I could convert these to very short video clips, stitch them together, and make a short video from when he bought them and putting them on and standing. And this was a lovely video that his wife, after he was gone, just really enjoyed. So it's a really useful feature. And as Roy described, it's even easier to do in iPad photos, where you can add multiple live photos and make a video of.
Right.
And then, of course, Roy even went farther than that by putting it into iMovie and showing how you could move those clips around if you wanted to. And
So many capabilities. There's if you should first explore all that Apple offers you before you go out and try to get an independent program, because you're going to have to keep up with it. And it's pretty much, if only the independent program does something, more than you need. But the capabilities that Apple have is phenomenal. And it is funny in a live too, to create a loop also, because you can create loops and you can change the way they're displayed and things like that. And those are kind of cute to rock back and forth or slow them down.
But Roy, just from what you were saying, when I had an exchange with Sam, because I sent him the video clip and he sent me back this amazing thing with all the pictures. And I said to him, how did you do that? Did you use iMovie or Final Cut or something like Davinci Resolve, which I'd heard of? Yeah. And he wrote back, Davinci Resolve, ! He told me that he'd used iMovie and Final Cut, but Davinci Resolve was easier to use. So I'll probably give that a try, and CapCut also, and see what progress I can make on a year